And now let's please welcome to the stage the star of Mr. Selfridge, a 3-time Emmy winner and the owner of the most exquisitely groomed stubble in all of Hollywood, Mr. Jeremy Piven.
All right, how are you? Good to see you. Yes, the thing I'm most proud of in the world is my stubble, so thank you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations. Mr. Selfridge was just renewed for a 4th season.
Yes, yes.
How did you find out the news?
Yeah. You know, we've been very lucky. The show has been incredibly well received overseas, and it just, we kind of knew, we've known that the audience, anyone that sees it stays with it. And the real challenge has been in this country to get the word out. Everywhere else, we've been sold to 165 countries. There's only 200 countries. I mean, that's basically more than Entourage and Downton Abbey and stuff like that. Like overseas, they're really getting it, but here it's kind of a slow burn. So, hence why I'm here.
Well, you perfectly set up my next question. For some people who may not be familiar, tell us a little bit about your character, Harry Selfridge.
He is an entrepreneur who basically kind of made his bones at Marshall Fields in the Midwest in Chicago. And this is the late 1800s. And then in 1908 decided to take the show on the road and break ground in London. And they had no shopping culture. So he had to invent the culture. And he basically was a part of masterminding the department store as we know it. All the big windows that you see, those were his ideas. He thought of retail as theater, and he was a very colorful character, and he liked to put on a show. And so that's what he did. He had an amazing family and wife and kids, but at night, he would go out and he liked to gamble. He fell in love with a stage star of the time, Ellen Love, and the madness ensues.
Well, yeah, as you hinted at during season 1, Harry's a philanderer.
Yes.
In season 2, he and his wife Rose work toward a reconciliation, but then toward the end of the season, she gets gravely ill.
Yeah.
Season 3, which Harry will we see?
Well, it's interesting. He starts off as this showman, and he's filled with energy, and he's so passionate and ambitious, and the only thing that matters to him is winning and succeeding, and he, along the way, loses track of what means the most to him in this life, which is his love, his wife. And you see him slowly start to be taken down a peg because she doesn't want, she won't take it anymore. And he finally realizes that without the love of her, that life means nothing. So it's kind of a cautionary tale. He finally gets her back, and they're together, and he has everything. And she tells him that she's terminally ill. So season 3 opens on her funeral, and he has no idea how he's going to continue, not a clue, and he's lost. And at the same time, his daughter's getting married. So you have the yin and yang of the universe, and the entire season takes off with a bang, and it's filled with turning point moments. The stakes are raised, and so it's funny because we're living in a different culture now. We watch our shows differently. We binge watch. So I feel like, in a weird way, it's almost better that not everyone in the States has jumped on the Mr. Selfridge bandwagon. That, listen, I'm promoting the Entourage movie right now. There's a lot of attention that I can take and put on the Mr. Selfridge. And the reality is people can go, and instead of waiting each week to see the show, they can binge watch the first 2 seasons, which people love to do, and then start with season 3, which is our best season yet. And I ship out to London next month to start season 4. So by the time you finish season 3, you'll be ready for season 4.
You've got it all worked out for everyone.
Yeah, I have it all worked out. Yeah. And you'll see the Entourage movie June 5th. Yeah, there you go. I've seen it. It's good. It works. Thank God it works. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah. So between the season 1 philandering Harry and the season 2 trying to get his wife back Harry, which one was more fun to play?
It's all fun. You know, actors love drama, and they love playing these stakes and showing the soul of a character. So for me, to have him have his heart broken, and to navigate through that is really special and a gift. And to play this role is a gift, because I played Ari Gold for 8 years, and it was a gift to be working, but to play such a reactive, high energy, insane individual. And I love that. But to play the antithesis of that, and to play this turn of the century gentleman who led by example and through love and treated everyone as an equal. Ari Gold, ruled with an iron fist and was an equal opportunity offender. And Harry Selfridge was a guy who loved to work and empowered people and was the embodiment of the American spirit and was a true optimist. So for me, it's healthier to play Harry, and at the same time, it's the best work of my life.
Yeah. Well, they actually do, Ari and Harry have quite a bit in common in that they're both very driven, they're very ambitious, they're loyal, but as you said, they have very different temperaments. So as an actor, I'm interested in knowing how it was for you to go from a character where you're just screaming almost all the time, and that level of intensity, to a character who has impressive reserve and very rarely gets angry or shows his anger.
Well, I mean, that's what you're looking to do as an actor. You're looking to grow and stretch and show your range. And, I was 40 movies into my career when I started Entourage, and I was already then labeled as like a schlumpy +1 best friend number 3. And then you play a character with power, and you're like, oh, he's the power guy. He's the guy that takes off all the oxygen in the room. And now I'm Harry Selfridge. Overseas, they call me Mr. Selfridge. And they approach me, as if I'm running a department store. And it's awesome. I can't help them, in any way, shape, or form, but I love it.
So season 3 takes place, it opens in 1990, and the war is over, and there's a lot of change afoot, and Harry's expanding his empire, and he says to Mr. Crab, we have to move forward. So can you talk a little bit about how the themes of change and progress sort of play out throughout season 3?
Well, I think Harry he's so devastated by the loss of his wife that he doesn't want to remain still to go inward and feel the pain. So he wants to be a moving target, and he wants to distract himself with the store and with progress. And he always did that anyway, but now he's even doubling his efforts. And he was the first to do so many things. He came up with the phrase, the customer's always right. The idea there's 200 days till Christmas, that was all him. He was the guy who developed these large windows that we see in all the stores. You go to Macy's or whatever, that's all him. He was that guy. He was a real innovator. So he put television cameras in the store so you could come and videotape, so you could film yourself and do your own little reality show before the television was out to the public. I mean, he was so ahead of his time, it was incredible. He developed the idea, he was the first man-made celebrity in a weird way, because he knew how important advertising was, and yet he would put himself front and center in that advertising. And then back in the day, you could go to the store and see him at 9 a.m. The doors would open. He'd be there with his pocket watch, greeting people. And so people go, God, let's go, see Harry Selfridge. His heroes were people like P.T. Barnum, who were, the inventor of the three-ring circus and stuff like that. So he was a very grandiose character. And the way I played him is larger than life. And it was a risk to play a character so big and then have him brought down a notch throughout his existence. And so that's the great thing about television, is you have a huge arc. And so that's what we've been playing.
So going back to when this role first came to you, you said, you had been playing Ari for 8 years, and it was an iconic role, 3 Emmys. When you first heard about this role, how did it come to you, and what appealed to you about it?
What appealed to me was his story, and that I never knew this story, and that he was an American that transformed shopping in England, and that they told me his life, and it's like a Greek tragedy. He was the equivalent of a billionaire, And after his wife passed away, he kind of became very close with the Dolly sisters, who were charlatans, and they took him for hundreds of millions of dollars. He would go out and gamble and give them tons of money. And that turn was incredible. And the way I don't want to get ahead of the story and tell you how he ended, but his story is, it's like that old saying, if you're going to admire someone's life, you have to admire their whole lives. And you couldn't write a story this fantastic. And he really appealed to me. Growing up in Chicago myself, I went to Marshall Fields, and I was a part of this place that he built. My mother went there, her mother before her. And they really, really treated people well and treated them like guests. And so I found him a fascinating character. He's a little bit, he's kind of Willy Wonka, and a little bit Tom Ford, and Richard Branson. He's just all of these different things all rolled into one, but yet very much himself. So also to play something so different and to work with the best actors in the world, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I was told by people who don't say very much that my work in the Entourage movie is better than the work I did during the series. So if that is true, if I did get better as an actor, it's because I've been working with these incredible actors, these British actors in Mr. Selfridge. And I could tell you that they're ridiculously prepared, overqualified for their roles, and they raise my game. So it makes sense.
So what is it like working on a set in London versus, how would you compare it to LA and the TV business in London versus LA? What are some of the differences?
The differences are, from the first take, they know exactly what they want to do. And you could print it and move on across the board.
Yeah.
They're just, they're a combination of insanely prepared and yet not pretentious, because they have a saying, just get on with it. So they're not going to do a take that's amazing and take a victory lap and go, booyah, in your face, bitch, They're going to do a brilliant take but they're also very sweet, humble, fun-loving people. It's a brilliant culture of people that are well-educated and curious. And it's an amazing combination, and I love it. And I'm going back for season 4, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Is it? I remember reading one of your interviews. You said it's a little more efficient in London too. That you're in, you're out. They get their day done.
It is more efficient. I mean, look, you're gonna use whatever you're given. If they say to you, just keep shooting till you got it, your director will keep shooting 17 hours. Because they're gonna listen. We have no time. Let's just keep shooting, and you're gonna wear the crew out and the cast. If they say, as they do in England, at 12 hours, you're done, you're finished. They then, necessity is the mother of invention. They're going to be incredibly inventive and figure out a way to get filmic coverage in 12 hours. In other words, to get the kind of coverage that you need 14, 17 hours for, they're going to figure out a way to do it at the speed of light without sacrificing the quality. And it's kind of a miracle how they do it, yeah.
So you mentioned the fans, the Mr. Selfridge fans in London. They call you Mr. Selfridge. Yeah. After years of having people yell, "Hug it out, bitch," at you on the street, what is it like? How would you compare these Mr. Selfridge fans, and what kind of encounters have you had with them?
Well, I had this woman say that she got a mani-pedi at Selfridge's, and it didn't last her long enough. And that, could I please talk to the staff? And I headbutted her. No, I didn't. No, she was lovely. I mean, listen, after being confused for Ari Gold, and as Jeremy Piven is very different from a abrasive, fast-talking agent. I do roles because I love them, and I work because I connect with them, the role itself. And money isn't the variable. And the reality is money is everything to Ari Gold. And so to be associated with that character and that ideology has been very strange for me. It's like living someone else's life. So now to move on to this other character who, I am more like Harry Selfridge. He's more human and more accessible, and at the same time, he's very different from me as well. I mean, you're talking about a turn of the century guy with a large family. I'm from the Midwest, so they kept my accent. It's the same accent that I use as Ari Gold. So I showed them what a Chicago accent sounds like. My accent's been homogenized because I'm a thespian, massive thespian. So I have just a very kind of flat Midwest accent. But a Chicago accent is very hardcore, cars and bars. My friend Mike was there for a couple, 2-3 days. It was brutal. Like it's not easy on the ears. And I did a Chicago accent for them, and they said, "Please don't ever do that again. That was disgusting." And they also said, "Is that Irish? Is that an Irish accent?" And then I realized that there are so many Irish in Chicago that a Chicago accent is a homogenized version of the Irish accent. So it does sound like, to their ears, I'm just doing a bad Irish accent. Which, had I done that accent on the show, would have been a disaster. Yeah. The reviews would have been like, what a terrible Irish accent.
So the clothes on Mr. Selfridge are beautiful.
Yeah.
And, Harry's as well. How does the wardrobe help you get into character?
Well, you have suspenders, and they kind of prop you up, and then you have a waistcoat, something like, this is like my little homage to Harry Selfridge. And it's incredibly elaborate, and it holds you in. And the collars are incredibly stiff and uncomfortable. That's why you see me, I'll never wear a tie unless I have to. Because for 8 years, literally Ari Gold was buttoned up. Harry Selfridge is buttoned up. I don't know who invented that, but it's basically like a noose. It's like, please enjoy this noose. And you will be, and I also I played high school football, so I have a 16.5 to a 17-inch neck. And, that's big. So, over there, they have no American football. So, my neck is like the size of a guy who would be at a heavyweight boxer over there. I have to use collar extenders. I'm like a freak. So I have trouble breathing. It's not pretty. But, you get into this character. Also, they pay such attention to detail. Literally, over there, it's kind of fascinating. Everyone's treated the same, whether you're an extra or the lead. And the people that are extras are dressed head to toe in very specific, authentic period costumes. And it's a feast for the eyes, and it's a great lesson to all of us because, on American sets, it's not the same way. There's a lot more of a hierarchy. And I kind of like it better over there because everyone's treated equally.
And you mentioned all the different layers that he wears. When I watch the show, I feel like it looks hot. You have so many layers on, and what's the most challenging part for you, for your wardrobe?
You know what, I train a lot, and I like to overheat myself, and I love sweating, and it sounds very creepy, doesn't it? No, I wear a lot of layers when I train, and I love saunas and all that stuff, so I'm always overheating. And so for me, it's in a weird way, I've been preparing for this.
Your whole life.
My whole life I've been preparing for this period, for this costume drama. Rex Lee, and he's going to hate me for saying this, who played Lloyd, would get overheated. And there'd be a team of experts around him with fans in between takes. And I just got very lucky because I'm used to overheating, so I got lucky.
So over the past 2 seasons, Harry's faced a lot of challenges, a lot of victories, but several obstacles, including falling into a coma at one point. What has been the most difficult?
For those of you who haven't seen it, Harry's not a drinker. And when his affair with Ellen Love, the stage star of the time, is exposed, he could lose his wife, and he starts drinking, and he gets into his 1909 Mercedes Ghost, wraps it around a tree, and goes into a coma. He didn't just go into a coma.
Sorry, I didn't give the complete backstory.
I wanted to let people know that there are steps in this show. Yes. Because a lot of people haven't seen this show yet, and this is actually a really fun experiment for me, because I want to see how long it takes in our culture for a show to become popular without a ton of advertising. Because this is all about word of mouth, so this is going to be kind of fascinating. I'm curious.
All right. Well, this is ground zero for
yes, you're helping,
your
so thank you.
No problem. So when you go shopping now, do you find yourself sort of assessing the store and the displays? I
do. I find myself having to calm down, because I'll be in a store and no one will come over to you for a long period of time, and I'm just thinking, this isn't the way to do it. So I feel like the spirit of Harry Selfridge is there living through me. And I do want to tell people how to run it, and I have to stop myself. It's weird.
Yeah.
Because I've studied him so much and I've been playing him, and I know they could do better and treat people better, and so. But then there are places you go to and they're incredible.
Yeah. So we're going to go to audience Q&A in a second, but I wanted to ask before we do. In addition to seasons 3 and 4 of Mr. Selfridge, you have another big event on the horizon, the Entourage movie, as you mentioned. Very exciting. For a while, it seemed like it wasn't going to happen. So can you tell us a little bit about how it came together?
Well, I was holding out for more money, and no, for the record, that is 1,000% not true. I was actually the first one to sign on, because I just thought, first of all, I had been in England doing this costume drama, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to go back into the future and play this maniac after playing Harry Selfridge, and how differently would I play him? Listen, had I not been doing this amazing show, I don't know if I would have gone back and done Ari Gold again, but I felt like I'd let him go. He was in the past, and I thought, why not just go back and get into it? It would be so fun to do. Yeah. And we hit the ground running. It was like no time had passed. It felt really, really good. And I do think it's explored and heightened in a better version of the series, And there's a lot of pressure, and I'm very proud of it.
And you've seen it?
I've seen it.
You vouch for
Stamp of approval.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right, well, I think we can turn it over to audience Q&A.
Hi, big fan.
Thank
one
you.
of my favorite movies is Smoking Aces.
Nice.
Can you talk about preparing for that character and what you had to do and stuff?
Yeah, Smoking Aces was, before its time. Think about this cast for a second. It was, Ben Affleck and Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman and Common and Alicia Keys and Taraji Henson, and everyone is a superstar, and it was before they kind of all broke. It's like Common just won an Oscar. Taraji is killing it on Empire. Ben Affleck is Ben Affleck. That's a celebration of him, by the way. It wasn't me slamming Ben Affleck, for the record. I went and studied with a lot of magicians, and they were incredible, and I just being around them and having them teach me sleight of hands was incredible. And I did the best that I could, and I'm still 1/1,000,000th of what they are. Because the reality is, you have to do it. You have cards in your hand 24 hours a day if you're a magician, and I did, but I have cards in my hands for 4 months, 24 hours a day. They've had cards in their hands since they were 8 years old. So I was able to do some sleight of hand, and that was amazing. I don't do cocaine, but because cocaine is a terrible drug. In the words of Rick James, thank you. But as a testament to that character, I've had people come up to me and go, bro, you want to do some blow? And I'm like, I don't do cocaine. And they're like, man, I've seen you do cocaine. I'm like, did you see me do cocaine in a movie? Because that's fiction. So I've had those moments, and that was Common's, I think that was Common's first role. It was his first role. And he's one of these guys who was a superstar in the hip hop community. And he was so humble coming into this new arena. And it was just great to work with him and to see how much he got better and he grew. And Joe Carnahan, who directed it, is a genius. He's a guy that basically helped create and direct The Blacklist and a million other movies. And it was an incredible experience, a little before its time. But go back and check it out, Smoking Aces.
Hi, we're big fans. We
Thank
are
you.
completely up to date.
Oh, there you go.
And we suggest everybody to watch it because it's amazing.
There you go.
What's the Mr. Selfridge set like on a day-to-day basis? And have you ever filmed actually at Selfridge's itself?
I'm trying to guess if you're Australian or New Zealand. New Zealand. Okay. New Zealand. These sets are shocking because, I mean, you walk in there and in the UK, if you don't get it right, you will hear about it, and you'll get letters and so it's amazing the attention to detail. You walk in and it's another world, and it's for an actor, it's such a gift because you're trying to place yourself in that place. And so you're always looking to be in the authentic place, and if you can't be, if they've recreated a set that is that specific, I mean, like, I grew up in Marshall Fields, and that's where Harry Selfridge learned how to do it. So Selfridge's is an homage to Marshall Fields, and I can see the metalwork that's an homage to Marshall Fields. I mean, it works on so many different levels, and it's enormous so that they can play with the cameras and do sweeping whatever they want. And Harry's house is breathtaking, and he was a guy who was ahead of his time with fashion as well. So not only do the sets work, but the clothes are impeccable, and it's a feast for the eyes. So it's a pleasure.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Huge fan of Entourage.
Thank you.
One of my questions about the Ari Gold character is like its evolution. You see him really sensitive with Vinny Chase at some moments, really sensitive with your wife at some moments. Was that a hard transition for you to make believable and sell on the show because it was such a tough character?
Well, I mean, what's funny is on that note, I was talking to a journalist, and she said, she was very honest with me, that she really appreciated Mr. Selfridge, but didn't really take to Ari Gold. And I was like, oh, interesting. Why is that? She said she just didn't like my character. And I was like, well, that's totally understandable. And she says she just doesn't gravitate towards people like that. And she thought that she said, there's no way that's acting. And I said, okay, interesting. And she said, I said, why? And she said, it was too good. It was too good. It was too real. And you have to understand, like, that's our job, and that's our goal, is to make like the way I'm speaking right now, everything is improvisational. It's coming off the top of my head. It's coming out of my mouth for the first time. That's my job as an actor, to make every word to be totally present and make it seem like I'm improvising everything. Entourage was written by Doug Ellen. Those speeches are laid out word for word, and I have to hit all that, and there's someone assigned to me. And if I don't get every word, it's, in the Jewish culture, it's like when those guys are writing out the Torah, they have to go back to the beginning if they miss one thing up. It's like, I'm one of those guys, got to go back to the beginning. And believe me, it was challenging and it was amazing. But so people then treat me and see me, and they just revert back to the character and think that I am this abrasive individual, and they treat me as such. I've had guys come up to me and say, bro, I'm a douchebag because of you. And I'm thinking, I want to retire. I have done something wrong, and I need to take that. I've done humanity a disservice. You know what I mean? Like, but listen, the harder you work, the easier it looks. That's just the way anything is. You know, I'm friends with John Legend. That guy is warming his voice up constantly. You know, I mean, he's still getting better and learning and all that. And the same with actors. We're just trying to get better. I tried to infuse as much humanity into Ari Gold as possible. So, you know, the first thing you do as an actor is you never judge your characters. And, you know, I could not be represented by Ari Gold. We're very, very different. He would hate me because I'm a guy that goes to England and works for not a lot of money. You know, he's all about the money. And I'm not. We're different. You know, we're different people. So the first thing I can't do is judge him. I have to embrace him and play him with every fiber of my being, give him as much integrity as possible, even though I may not like him. I mean, you know, we wouldn't like each other. So that, you know, I suggested from the jump that Perry Reeves, who plays Mrs. Ari, I was friends with before, and she's great, and we really got along, and I knew that that chemistry would carry over into the roles. And we had our first scene, and I'm supposed to just yell at her and just take off. And I said, wouldn't it be great if I yelled at her? And she's like, give me the keys. And I kind of shrink like a little boy and give her the keys. And then I follow her off camera. I'm like, let her wear the pants in the relationship. I crush everyone except my wife has all the power. That duality will work. And we can just hang our hat on that forever. Because I can be this guy who looks at every woman that walks by and is continuously distracted, and you think he's a pig. And I can get away with that because he's monogamous and loves his wife. I can get away with his methods being unsound and being possibly homophobic or whatever, you know, because he's an equal opportunity offender. And he speaks the truth as he knows it in his own strange way. And I think that's what people gravitated towards because of his energy. Maybe you like him, maybe you don't have the same beliefs as him, but there's something about his energy. It was confident, it was funny. I was thinking about this today. He almost feels like there are some politicians that people vote for, and you might not believe their platform, but you feel their energy, and you're like, that guy, like their energy is confident, and they believe themselves. And so you see that and go, I think he's speaking the truth. I'm with this guy. And you might not even believe in his platforms. I digress because that's a whole other problem that we need to face. But in terms of the layers of Ari Gold, it was a challenge. I mean, I remember going to the creator of Entourage when I started crying when I couldn't get my son into a private school. And you know, we didn't agree on whether or not to keep it. And I really wanted to keep that moment in there. And I remember one of the credos of the Entourage series was you'll never see a close-up in Entourage. A lot of movement, a lot of just wide shots, you know, camera roving, and it had a lot of movement and energy. And I remember playing the scene where Dan Castellaneta he's the voice of Homer Simpson, genius guy, was playing the headmaster of the school. And he's saying, your son's not going to get in, not because of him, because of you, because you're abrasive, you're always on the phone. And I just remember that hit me and I started crying. And I said, can you bring the camera in a little bit? And they're like, we don't do that on the show. And I literally took the camera and brought it in. You got it. This is a character, if there was ever a moment to bring the camera in, show his humanity. He has gotten in the way of his son's education. That's heavy. So they brought the camera in because I'm a total ham, and I begged for it, and it worked. And I was lucky enough to win an Emmy for that, you know. So I you know, there are things like that. Listen, showing dimension is the best thing you could do, and people want to see that. They don't want to see a one-dimensional character. They want to see the layers. None of us are just one thing, you know. No one is a devil in their own story.
Your role as Ari Gold really inspired me to get into entertainment industry. I was in fashion
my
before.
God, am I sorry
I
about
know,
that.
I'm crazy, right? So I know you actually were not an agent in real life, but
Yeah.
as your experience, you seem like you on the show, you loved it and you hated it at the same time. What's your thought on working as an agent or a publicist for a celebrity in the industry?
You know, as an actor, you know, what you want is an agent who gets you and who will fight for you. And because, I mean, I can only speak for myself, and you know, for a lot of people, like, acting is, there's so much rejection. I mean, you have to have thick skin. Like you know, it's just it's the nature of the beast. And so you have to really love it. You know, people stop doing it because they can't take the rejection anymore. And I grew up on the stage, so I always thought, just get through it, because I want to get back to that feeling that I had when you're acting. So it gets you through those moments. So I always want an agent who gets how much I love it. And so I wanted to play an agent that got and loved his client. And that's the way he really felt and feels about Vinny Chase. And it's funny because his first order of business in the movie, I mean, I'm going to tell you things that I shouldn't be telling you. Should I be doing that?
Yes.
I don't know if maybe I'll be fired.
Too late. It's already filmed.
I'll go to actor jail. We pick up with Ari Gold where we left off. It's 6 months later, and he's in Italy. And where would Ari Gold be without any type of communication? He has no Wi-Fi. He loves his wife. They're together. It's perfect. He's living the dream. But he can't communicate with the people. We left him with this incredible conundrum. He was offered basically to be God in his industry, to run it all. And he can't even contact those people to tell him his answer because he can't get a hold of them. So I wanted that to hit the ground running in this height of frustration, and that's kind of where we pick up with him. And he does take the job, and his first order of business is to take care of his boy and to give Vinny Chase the lead role in his first movie that he's greenlighting. Does that character exist? I don't know. I hope so. I'd like to find him, but I wanted to play him, you know, and that's what we all want as actors, is someone that gets us. And, you know, that's all you can hope for. And scene.
And scene. Thank you so much to Jeremy Piven for coming, and
Thank you for having
to
me.
everyone.
Thank you for taking your time out.
And Mr. Selfridge premieres March 29th at
March
9 p.m.
29th, 9 o'clock, PBS. Take a chance.